It was an amazing opportunity. So I moved to DC to become a federal affairs liaison for the state of Florida. And that is when
you said no. This okay. You can say it. That's when you said, nope, that's not going to work for me.
I went in thinking, I'm going to be the bridge to make the change. We're going to change the environment together. We can do this together.
That was nice.
It was real nice.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the 4 Degrees to the Streets podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine Jones-Bynes, back in our studio in Burbank, California. Thank you for continuing to rock out with us. We are finally in Women's History Month, and to celebrate Women's History Month, I have my girl with me, Dr. Nemmi Cole. Nemmi, how are you? How's it going?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I know it was a little bit of a doozy from the Inland Empire to the Valley.
That drive can be intense.
Yay, though I go through the Valley.
That's the truth.
I will arrive. And it is a hot day in LA. I'm so sorry if you're looking at snow in New Jersey. I don't know what to tell you. It's almost 90 degrees here.
Yes, we're feeling it.
It's hot. So I'm so excited to have Dr. Cole on the show. I'm going to continuously emphasize doctor because that is not the way that we met. But before we get into it, you can follow us on Substack and Instagram at the number 4 Degrees Pod. You can find episodes monthly on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, also at the number 4 Degrees Pod. So tap in with us and let's keep going. Like I said, I have a special guest on the show with me, Dr. Nemmi Cole. Nemmi is an environmental and civil engineer. You're a built environment and public health scholar. You're a SoCal native and a professional hair braider. So let me get into reading your bio so I can give the people a little bit more about you. Dr. Nemmi Cole is a researcher, engineer, and entrepreneur whose work sits at the intersection of science and social impact. Growing up in San Bernardino, California, with roots in Houston, Texas, she was driven by a deep intellectual curiosity about the world around her. That curiosity took her to Florida A&M University, where she became a proud triple alumna, earning her bachelor's, her master's, and her PhD in civil and environmental engineering. Her professional background spans academia, state and federal government, and international research, including roles as a Florida Gubernatorial Fellow, Federal Affairs Fellow in Washington, D.C., and as a regulatory program assistant with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Most recently, she completed a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Southern California's Keck School of Medicine, where she led research focusing on the impact of the built environment on children's respiratory health outcomes. Off the clock, and this is how I met Nemmi, she spends nearly 20 years running her hair business, Braids by Nemmi, where she treats hair as a sophisticated art form rooted in culture and care. As she steps into her next chapter as a future faculty member, her mission is to equip the next generation of engineers and STEM professionals with the knowledge and practical skills to translate their academic training into real-world impact. How you doing? That's a great bio.
Thank you so much. I love it. I love it. I'm just happy to be here today with you. I know we've been discussing this for a while, and I'm just excited to, share and collab and, talk about my journey and how I got here too.
Yeah, and there's so many things in that we're going to get to, but I just want to tell everybody how you and I met because I think it is a beautiful story that I want the whole world to know. And jump in wherever you want to add a little detail or a nugget because we're in person and we could be collaborative. So, when you move to a new city, it's hard to get your hair done. You don't know who to trust, who you can go to, who's not going to burn your edges off or rip them out your scalp when you get the braids. And my cousin, Coy, was at USC playing basketball, and you were still in your postdoc there also. And Coy's braids was always laid and slayed, had a new little style, some twist, some color. So I'm like, Coy, who does your braids? And she's like, oh, this girl, she works at the university. Mm-hmm. Gave me your phone number. We connected. I show up to your house. You were in Pasadena, I think, at the time. And as I'm, you're getting set up. The girls know you setting up the braid hair. Yep. Getting the hair together. You got some time to get comfortable and look around people's house, see if it's dirty or not. Like, okay, what we into? And I see all of these environmental science books, all of these public health texts. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, are you a planner? Like, are you an urban planner? And you told me that you were an environmental engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Your work was around health and health disparities and air quality and water quality. And I was just grateful to have met another black woman in that same space,
Mm-hmm.
who has this other talent of braided hair and who's multi-talented and diverse. So thank you. I'm glad that we were able to meet through hair, and that hair was the thing that bonded us together. But I see our industries and our professional experience having so much more in common.
Absolutely. I was actually really excited when you even asked me about the books because no one ever takes a chance to, look outside of the braider. Like they assume naturally, oh, you're just a hair braider. But I felt like our conversation was already exciting from the starting point. And I was excited to, you were saying, I do this. I was like, oh, I do this. And how this correlates. It was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So,
Yeah, it was great. So I think the first question I want to know, and I think that people will want to fill in this gap, is how do you go from civil and environmental engineering
hmm.
to USC School of Medicine for a postdoctoral fellowship?
Okay. So, starting off, first off, even selecting civil and environmental engineering was something that was a natural fit for me. Loved math and science.
Mm-hmm.
Always was inquisitive on how, why, what, when, how things work. And I loved all aspects of the built environment. So I innately wanted to do civil engineering. But as I delved further into, my courses and rigorous engineering work, I fell into the path of environmental as well, and they offered a dual enrollment program. So I decided to do, both.
Okay.
I wanted to do something where I had like a true impact, something that I actually can see.
Yeah.
And that's what led me into the civil and environmental engineering arena
Mm-hmm.
because who's going to look after our water, make sure that our environment is sustainable, and making sure that we have healthier communities too. So with that, majority of my work is focused on air quality, water quality, in our land.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I finished, ultimately I wanted, to go teach.
Yeah.
But for me, delving into teaching, you really need to understand the material past just coursework.
Yeah.
You need some hands-on experience. And with that, I kind of wanted to do a little bit more training on how does the environment impact human health,
Okay.
and what better opportunity to do that than to join the team at USC in the Department of Population and Public Health Sciences.
Okay.
This opportunity was very unique because I got a chance to work alongside a lot of epidemiologists studying environmental justice and health, primarily looking at different aspects. I was given the opportunity to look at different aspects: water quality and human health, air pollution and human health, and really kind of make the project my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I was excited for the opportunity.
You are in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You finished civil and environmental engineering for your PhD program, and you're looking to make an impact, and that's how you land at USC
Mm-hmm.
in their Department of Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason why those things were connected? Like, what do you think is the reason for your interest or your passion in connecting air, water, land to health outcomes? Like, why do you care about that? I know why I care, but I want to know why that's important to you also.
It's something I'm passionate about. Clean water, air, sustainable land is not something for some people, it's for all people.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I consider myself a lifelong learner. I'm going to be a student. Well, my grandmother would call me a forever student, or
because you went and got that PhD.
Right. She was like, how much longer? And I was like, well, Granny, I just need to, get
So you don't want to work for real.
Right. She's like, you just don't want to work.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Granny, if I were to get one more degree, she's like, I'm not coming. I was like, okay, got it. But in all honesty, I really love the topic. I love all aspects of the preservation of our environment and making the community a better place
Mm-hmm.
for future generations to come, but also leaving my mark, leaving my legacy, leaving the impact. I stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
People have worked so hard to get me to the place where I'm at. So now it's my time. I have the torch, but also teaching the next generation, so that they can carry that torch even further.
Yeah.
Just sharing, empowering, and building together. So it's a passion.
And when you were at USC, what did your research focus on? What was the area was there a particular neighborhood you were focused on, a particular topic? Talk to us about some of that work.
Okay. I had the wonderful opportunity of writing my own grant and coming up with my own research topic, which focused primarily in the Inland Empire region.
Okay.
That's San Bernardino and Riverside County.
Where you're from?
Yes. And I was looking at children's respiratory health. And it was in association to the massive expansion of mega warehouses in the region. So this topic, it can, from the outside looking in, it can seem extremely random. Like, why would someone want to look at warehouses? Like, they're just warehouses.
But those who know.
Yes. So what most people don't know that aren't from the IE, the Inland Empire, that used to be considered the Orange Empire. We were known for the agriculture, the land. It was beautiful, and it's still beautiful. San Bernardino County is also the largest county by land size in the United States. This region is now known as the warehouse mecca.
Yeah, that's how I know it.
Yes, and it's unfortunate because what happens is with all of these warehouses, and when I bring up mega warehouses, I mean warehouses that are at least 100,000 square feet or larger. You're losing critical infrastructure such as green spaces, parks, necessary areas for a thriving community.
Yeah.
What happens with these mega warehouses, you'll see a massive influx of diesel fuel trucks, deterioration of the roads, more traffic congestion, a lot of noise, and just overall blight.
Yeah.
And in that particular region, the Inland Empire, the way it's settled, specifically the topography, it's like a basin. The only outlet is to, I guess you would say, the west, which is Los Angeles. So we've already been dealing with terrible air pollution.
From the city of LA.
Yes. And it settles there. So when you bring in these mega warehouses or warehouses in general, you're adding to what already is a troublesome air pollution problem. And a lot of the community finds that they don't have a voice and a way out.
Yeah.
So that's why this project, it kind of hit close to home.
Yeah.
Because this is where I was raised. And I wanted to shed some light using the data and allowing it to speak for itself and hoping to make some changes.
Was San Bernardino like that when you were growing up? Was it the industrial area that it is today?
Not at all.
Okay, so that changes as of 15 years. How recent would you? Because I've known it to be the place where if you're bringing anything to the port of Long Beach, the port of LA, that you got to go literally through San Bernardino to get it to the rest of the country, right? The country's kind of split down the middle between, you pull into that port in Houston, you go that way. You pull into that port in California, you go that way. And that's kind of the way that it's split.
Yep. 40% of the world's supply is going through our corridors from Los Angeles and Long Beach ports. Taking the highways and sitting in warehouses in the Inland Empire region and then being dispersed. That's a large amount.
Yeah.
You asked me, I want to say it was after 2008, you started to see critical infrastructure being, transitioned in 2015. But what I really noticed was right after the pandemic.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, people are at home. We have, these fast fashion entities now, and that those products that are being shipped in have to sit somewhere.
Yeah. And
the land was much cheaper, had access to the freeways, so why not put it there?
Yeah. That has been a theme of this podcast consistently, that there's a decision made where it gotta go somewhere.
True.
America's a capitalist society. We're going to be making money. When you make money, somebody got to hold the waste. Somebody has to hold the ugly stuff in the background before you make your money.
The burden.
All of the clothing, all of the lumber, all of that stuff that makes its way to Home Depot, to Walmart, to Target, to Fashion Nova, to Shein, has to get on a truck. Well, because of globalization, has to come from another country on a boat or a plane to our country, to our ports, whether it's our airport or our like our shipping ports. Get on a truck or a train, but now really a truck. Drive east, inland, through the 10, through the 710, through the 810. Don't mess up my geography. I know some of those might go north instead of east. And then sits in a warehouse. That's a decision made from the top to the bottom. From where the highway is located, first and foremost, to the streets that these warehouses are going to be. Okay, the zone. Okay, this is going to be a I-1 zone, an industrial 1 zone where you can do something light. All the way up to I-4 where you can have some serious storage of hazardous even materials, whether you're doing something for war industry and things like that. What I want to get to here, though, is that has to be decided upon. Where do we put it? Do we put it in the middle of downtown Los Angeles? Do we put it in Beverly Hills? Do we put it on the corner of La Cienega and Melrose? Where do we put it? When you guys start making some decisions. Where's the land cheaper? Because if we're going to waste, quote unquote, land, let's waste it somewhere where the land is valued lower. Then you got to understand how land is valued. That's where what we probably talked about when we were getting our hair braided is I'm on the real estate side, you're in the environmental side. Well, from a real estate perspective, the way that neighborhoods are underwritten, a great book for all of us to read is Andre Perry's Know Your Price, valuing Black lives and Black communities. I might have botched the name, but I'll have it in the show notes. That's the whole point of that book, is that even when you're comparing apples to apples in terms of property, that same property, that same single family, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 1,000 square foot house in a Black neighborhood, and that same exact house in a white neighborhood, the Black neighborhood house is valued less. So off rip, put it over there because the land is cheaper. Well, we have to understand why the land was cheaper in the first place. Is it because this land is less valuable, or is it because the people associated with the land are seen as being less valuable? And how we price it is seen as being less valuable.
That's a good point.
So then that leads me to my next question for you is, the industry is there. We know some of those outcomes, whether it's pollution, air quality. What is the impact of that on the people who then live immediately adjacent to it or within that area, within those mega warehouse areas?
What we find with even just looking at previous research studies for that particular region, 10% of children under the age of 10 have asthma. We find higher rates of chronic diseases, RSV, hospital visits for children, COPD, and a lot of respiratory health issues. What people fail to realize is just because you don't see it doesn't mean you're not impacted. Some days you may see the smog. You may even get an alert on your phone. Okay, it's a red air day, orange, limits your access to outdoor activity. But you're constantly breathing this in. And where you work, live, and play and spend majority of your time, if you're in proximity to environmental pollution, that plays a role in your overall health. So that's why this study was quite important to me, because I wanted to delve in deeper and not just use secondary research, but find the data for myself. See the data for myself and add to the growing body of knowledge and science in that area.
The thing that I think is always important when we're looking at these studies, and you mentioned it when we were talking before, so I want to give you the chance to speak on it now, is correlation versus causation. And you've been in academia, right, where you're studying something and you see some also related effect, some other related variable. How do you communicate that to someone who might hear, this is because of that?
And this is critical too. Correlation does not equal causation. So just because for example, you're living next to this mega warehouse does not mean that your child will experience or have asthma. living in close proximity to this warehouse could be one factor contributing to health outcomes, but it cannot be used to say that just because you live here, it is caused primarily because of your proximity to the exposure site.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I think that's something that we try to highlight in this show also. Research is important, and it's a valuable tool to advocate for something. The flip side of that is to say, well, that doesn't mean we just go around dropping these industrial zones everywhere and just leaving it to be, because it's having some effect. It's a factor in the process. Moving to other aspects of your work that you've done, because I think what you've done at USC and the connection between civil and environmental engineering and public health and epidemiology is like super important, and I love that you're an engineer in that space. There's something unique about a black female engineer. I mean, off rip, only 2% of all engineers in the country are black and female. How does it feel for you to be in that company?
It's amazing. Sometimes I don't sit back and even just hearing you say that, it just is a reminder of how far I've come.
Yeah.
But also a reminder of how far we have yet to go.
Yeah.
Being in this space is a great feeling. However, I feel like I'm in this particular space for a purpose, and it's to help the next generation. I didn't often see engineers that looked like me, nor have teachers that looked like me. And I know that not just in engineering, but in any particular space, the lack of representation can play a role in where you go.
It can be discouraging.
Yes, it can. So I just hope that I'm able to, be that little hope or inspiration for anyone listening in, watching. Like, gosh, because it may sound cliche, but I always say, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
The journey may not be easy, but the person you become on that journey is, to me, almost more important.
While we're here, and because we're in Women's History Month, can you speak about any female leaders or mentors that you've had that have helped you navigate through this space?
The first person that comes to mind is my grandmother. That's my heart. My granny has instilled in me so many different qualities, not just by teaching, but by leading by example. She is a large part of the reason I am the woman I am today. And so she's the first person that comes to mind.
Yeah.
As well as my mother. Two strong black women that have always instilled in me that if I put my mind to it, I can do it. If I can dream it, I can be it. If I believe it, I can receive it.
Yeah.
And so I have that reiterating, or I guess you can say I have that replaying in my mind on a daily basis.
No, that's really real. I think as we all reflect on Women's History Month and the people that have shaped us, you got to start at home. You got to look around. And even if you haven't put into words that this person who may not have had the same career as you, or may not have achieved a PhD or a master's, and they might have been a homemaker or there for the family, is still a leader in their own right. And I think that's fantastic to highlight. Shout out Granny. You also graduated with all 3 of your degrees from Florida A&M University, a historically black college and university. Talk to us about that. Does it feel significant for you to have went through that experience at HBCU?
Absolutely. Attending FAMU was the number one best decision I've ever made in my entire life. I mean, before even getting there, I had a few criteria lined out for institutions that I wanted to attend. I knew, number one, that I wanted to attend an HBCU. That came after watching Drumline in 2002. I really wanted to march in the band.
Okay.
I needed a really good engineering program.
Okay.
I knew that I was going to study engineering. And I also wanted a good dance program because I wanted to dance on campus as well.
Okay.
And I started doing campus visits, and when I got on FAMU's campus, I knew it like immediately. And I was like, I'm at home. This is
Aww.
it. And my mom was like, all right, let's do it. I would say FAMU, it instilled in me so many different qualities and traits, but you're just surrounded by excellence. Excellence is the standard.
Yeah.
I received not only like my technical training when it comes to the engineering sense, but my cultural grounding,
Yeah.
and a sense of belonging. It's one thing to say that, but to experience it is beyond this world. And I had a very unique opportunity. So the engineering school there, it actually combines Florida A&M University and Florida State University, and we're our own separate college.
Okay.
And we're the only one in the nation to do that. So I would say I made the right choice.
Yeah. Everybody that has been on this show that has gone to an HBCU speaks so highly of that experience. I went where it was free, so I did not go to an HBCU. But I do wish that I always think about it, and I hope for my children that they're able to go to one. I think that's a very empowering experience to be gaining your formal education and to be doing it surrounded by and it also demonstrates that Black people aren't a monolith, right? Like you go to these universities and there's skaters, there's rappers, there's people who are studious, people who aren't studious. We're not a monolith. We're all different and unique in that regard, and I think that's what I appreciate about HBCUs also.
Absolutely.
Getting to your background, right, and the different roles that you've had in Florida, you've been in D.C., kind of always in the state and federal era. Talk to us about what some of those jobs were, and then how do you contextualize the work of academia with the work of being in the government as quote unquote like a policymaker or a legislator? How do those things in your mind come together, and do you see yourself leaning in one direction or the other, or are they really that different?
Okay. So some of my roles, well, first off, my journey is so different. This is not a path that someone's carved out or that I've seen. A lot of my roles were simply based off of my curiosity or the challenge. One in particular that comes to mind was when I was a Florida Gubernatorial Fellow. This is a fellowship that this was former Governor Jeb Bush that put it together in 2004. And it's a nonpartisan group of individuals, usually roughly about 10 are selected from across the region of Florida. It's supposed to be the best and brightest, and they place them at the top level of state government.
Okay.
This is your opportunity to learn about different agencies, how they work, and you select one particular agency to work with their execs.
Okay.
And the interview process for that was already pretty intense.
I mean, I imagine.
Going in, majority of the people that I was interviewing against were political science students, students that had an interest in going into government, knew how government already pretty much operated and was run. And for me, I kind of went in like, well, I'm going to give it a try, but they're not going to pick an engineer.
I have all these technical skills,
I'm I wouldn't say nerdy, but yes, I was nerdy. But ultimately, I was selected. And that opportunity allowed me to work with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection.
Okay. And
so they have 3 separate regions. They have their air department, water and resources, and land. And I was able to spend time with each of those, also working under the Deputy Secretary of Regulatory Programs.
Okay.
And I really learned the ins and outs of his position, and I would say it was a lot more than I thought was involved. It's one thing from the outside looking in, like, why aren't they regulating this, or why is this being overregulated? But when you're the person that's in charge and responsible,
you got all those variables.
It's a lot that can, be on your plate at once. And now I have a different lens. I look at it completely different.
Yeah.
So furthermore, subsequently after that experience, the fellows out of the 10, one gets selected to continue the fellowship at the federal level. And I was the one selected. It was an amazing opportunity. So I moved to D.C. to become a federal affairs liaison for the state of Florida. And that is when
you said no. It's okay. You can say it. That's when you said, nope, that's not going to work for me.
I went in thinking, I'm going to be the bridge to make the change. We're going to change the environment together. We can do this together.
That was nice.
It was real nice. I left and said that was a wonderful opportunity. It is not for me.
About how long was it? How many?
I spent 6 months in D.C.
Okay.
And I was able to attend many different hearings, get to know different congressional members, their ins and outs, and see what was occurring at the federal level, but also communicating, with the state. And ultimately, I want to say it was disheartening, but I see, like, everything is so polarized that it's hard to get any one agenda done or completed, even if it's rational and makes sense. I also learned that, like, the rigorous process of implementing new programs or policies and what goes behind that and the backing you need your timeline to be on point, budgeting, and ultimately you need like a little mini coalition so you can have a great policy, a great plan, but if you don't have those things aligned, it probably won't gain any traction and move forward. So it was an eye-opening experience. I haven't lost hope. Do I want to go back? No.
Okay.
But someone has to be the voice.
Everything ain't for everybody.
That's true.
So it doesn't have to be you.
Right.
It could be one of y'all.
That's true.
It could be one of y'all, because this is not me either. No, I asked that question because I think that's a very real experience for people who set out in the world to do good. You think, okay, I'm going to go into this system and I'm going to be part of revolutionizing it and improving it and perfecting it. And it can be disheartening to see all the different ways in which things can't get done or why they can't get done, even if you know this is a really good thing to support.
Absolutely.
But I think having the experience is always very important, because if you don't know and you don't see that could have worked for you. You could have ran, you could have become the next Secretary of Environmental Protection. You know what I mean? Like, you have to try things to be willing to be able to see if it works for you or if it doesn't.
That's the important factor right there, trying things, even if it's outside of your, comfort zone.
And I think what you said about your career is some way, shape, or form related to mine also, in that, like, it's not a linear path. I did things that I felt were interesting or would challenge me, and so it's kind of loop-de-loop.
Yes.
But I think all of those experiences help to make you an expert in the things that you know the best.
Absolutely.
Continuing on through that, we talked about some of the barriers to working in government. Academia has its own set of troubles. Balancing publishing or paralleling, as they say, balancing the demands of the people who are paying for your research. Some other ones I'm sure you can think of, but those are the two that come to mind for me as I was going through my master's program. So I want you to speak about what are some of the limitations of working in academia, and how do you work on using that as an avenue to pursue community change versus in government, for example?
So academia is great. You have wonderful opportunities to explore wonderful ideas, collaborate with others. But like you mentioned, funding, where the funding comes from can often dictate what is being researched.
Absolutely.
How it's being researched, when it's being researched. So that can be extremely challenging, especially if it's a topic that can be a little touchy. And when I say touchy, I mean something that the university may not want to put their name or associate their name to or be a part of. Or
because it's groundbreaking, because it's controversial, something like that.
Could be, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Also, you mentioned the publishing or perishing. That's huge in academia.
For the professor, right?
Yes.
As a professor.
If you do not publish, you're more than likely not going to make it far, or at least make it to tenure.
Yeah.
And that can be extremely challenging because they reward when you publish, how much you publish, where you publish, more than the actual work.
More than teaching.
Yes, absolutely.
More than teaching to the students.
Yes.
Okay.
And that can be challenging, by itself.
Yeah.
Especially for someone like me. I like to see like traction in action.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like to conduct the research and move forward with actionable steps in the process. But they said you can get those steps after you write paper 1, 2, 3, 4,
and then
5.
Get the book out.
And then get the book, go ahead and go to the conference proceedings, present it, and then we could circle back on the action.
Yeah.
I want the action, traction, and then we can, write as we go. But that doesn't work. That's not how academia works.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating to a lot. It's either you kind of conform to the system or get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
But I also see the importance of publishing in these scientific journals. This is how we expand our knowledge base. This is how we produce more in a field that needs more research. Yeah. But I also see that there needs to be a balance shift. Are we caring more about the paper, or are we caring more about the people that the paper's about?
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then another thing we talked about as we were preparing for this episode was the actual content of your research paper, right? You have all of this on the literature, the introduction, the literature review, the methodology, the data. You know, I done wrote me a few papers. The methodology, the data, and then this little one section, impact, policy implementation, whatever you want to call it. Just give me a paragraph and then conclusion.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that for someone who is impact oriented, wants to see action and then traction. And then you have a paragraph, you have 2 paragraphs to write about how this research can be used, how it can inform policy.
I wish that would be in reverse. I wish majority of the paper would be on how to implement, these policy and these changes. What can be done right now? What steps can be taken right now?
Yeah.
It can be a little frustrating for it to be that way. But this is exactly why I'm truly grateful for my experience at USC. I was able to learn more about community participatory research.
Okay.
And with that, the community that you may be conducting research with is right there with you at the table. You're not just doing research on them.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing research together. Now, when it's community engaged, we're more than likely going to have a better outcome. And I find that that's a dynamic shift that can be done in other research aspects as well. Mm-hmm. However, it's still not awarded like traditional research. Mm-hmm. But it's one step closer.
I think it's always interesting. I mean, if someone's giving you money, they're going to tell you what you could do with it, how to do it, when to do it, why you can't do it like that, change it, I need it better, or I'm taking my money, I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's how it goes with all of us. Mm-hmm. Beggars can't be choosers.
That is true.
And this is something I've been wrapping my mind around a lot is supporting our own institutions and supporting our organizations. So I think that community participatory research is a great example of that, of saying, this is a problem that we're all experiencing. How can we work together? Our institutions, our governments work together to try to solve this particular problem. Speaking to me, that was my challenge, and why I ultimately didn't pursue a PhD after getting my master's was I had been doing graduate research assistant work in public health and built environment. I worked for the Healthy Places Lab, which was like a lab where we studied place, space, neighborhoods, and public health outcomes through an urban planning and built environment context. And wrote these papers and did all this research, and I'm like, okay, but the neighborhoods still don't have the park.
Right.
So when does the park, how do we get the park? That's what I want to focus on is, how do we get the park? Whatever team is putting the park together, that team I want to be on. And I still haven't found that, right? What you learn through going through it is it's all a system.
Yep.
The policy, the academia, the implementers, the planners, the engineers, that individual real estate broker, everyone's playing their role. Yeah. The Parks Department is playing their role, navigating all of those systems is what's ultimately going to lead to community change and getting things done. Not one of those sectors alone
We'll do it.
can do anything. You know, policy's no good without research. What you policying if you don't have no research?
Right.
How do
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? So they all have to have they all have their role. We all have to find our niche and where we belong.
Absolutely.
As we wrap towards the end of the episode, I want to ask a few more questions. What's next for you? What are you looking to do in the nearby future?
The biggest goal is to teach and bring together all of my professional and academic work into one. So it won't be just teaching your regular intro to civil engineering or intro to environmental engineering course. I want to do STEM and public policy, environmental health and engineering. I want to kind of merge these sectors together so that you're not just looking at it through one lens. And hopefully I'll be able to bring in some colleagues that can collab and co-teach some of these courses. Because I know that there's an interest there.
I think that's fantastic and very exciting, and I look forward to seeing how you balance the relationship between teaching and publishing and impacting the community, because they all have to happen together. I like to end my podcast episodes asking our guests if they have any takeaways, something that you, through this conversation and your preparation for this conversation, thinking about your work overall, you want to leave our audience with today.
Always remember the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. Never think that you've made it. Continue to grow, expand, and learn. Try to learn something new every day.
A lifelong learner, like you said in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And we back to Granny all over again, too. There we go. Well, Dr. Nemmi Cole / Braids by Nemmi. Now your Instagram, your social media braid page gonna blow up.
It sure is.
I'm claiming it. When I met you, you had like this many followers, all these pictures. Gonna be popping now.
Thank you so much for having me.
It has been a long time coming. I thank you so much for joining the 4 Degrees to the Streets podcast. I remember getting my hair braided that day. We watched Titanic that day, and we talked about highways and urban planning and environmental justice for 4.5 hours. And I left like, we're going to have her on the show. So here we are. I want to say like 3 years later. Finally got you on the 4 Degrees to the Streets podcast. Thank you, Dr. Nemmi Cole, for joining the show. To the audience, I'm Jasmine Jones-Bynes, host of the 4 Degrees to the Streets podcast. You can follow us on Instagram, Substack, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts at the number 4 Degrees Pod. Peace out, y'all.